So you think Dallas is affordable, huh? Well, that's been the reputation for a lot of years over here. People have been moving here for bigger opportunities, the strong job market, no estate income tax, and the cost of living that felt a whole lot better than places like California, New York, or Seattle. But lately, something interesting has definitely happened. The same people who used to move to Dallas because it was affordable are now asking whether they can still afford it. And I want you to really think about that for a second. The city that built its reputation on being one of America's best values is now having conversations about people getting priced out. Now, does that mean Dallas has become expensive? Maybe. But does it mean Dallas isn't worth moving to anymore? Not even close. But it does raise a pretty important question, right? How did Dallas go from being one of America's biggest bargains to a city where affordability has suddenly become a part of the conversation? And once you guys see how much things have changed over the last 15 years, you'll understand why some people still see Dallas as the great value that they see it as, while others are starting to feel like the city they once knew is starting to slip further and further out of reach. All right, guys, so the goal here isn't to scare you away. It's to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into.
Drink till I'm drunk, smoke till I'm high, castle on the hill, wake up in the sky, you can't tell me I ain't fly, I know I'm super fly, I know I'm super.
All right, so let's rewind back to around, say, 2010, because this is really where the Dallas affordability story actually began, right? You see, back then, Dallas was already a major city, but it wasn't the relocation superstar that it is today. It wasn't showing up on every best places to move list. It wasn't dominating on YouTube, and every third person that you met out here wasn't arriving with California plates and a fresh appreciation for brisket. At that time, guys, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex was only around 6.4 million people, and I say that like it's not a lot. But now today, we're pushing closer to 8.5 million, and that's going to be more than 2 million additional people in about 15 years. Look, to put that in perspective, that's basically like dropping another city the size of Houston into the Metroplex and saying, yeah, y'all figure that thing out. But before all the growth showed up, guys, Dallas had a completely different type of reputation. Back then, the median home value in Dallas was right around $130,000. Plus, trust me, I built my first house out here for $175. Today, that number is north of 320,000 and is steadily rising. So when people say Dallas used to be affordable, they're not exaggerating at all. The numbers really were that different back then. And here's something else that people really forget all the time. Property taxes weren't exactly low back then either. Texas has had these high property taxes for a long time. The difference was that those tax rates were being applied to homes worth $130,000 instead of homes worth $300, $400, and some even $500 plus. It's kind of like ordering a percentage tip at a restaurant, right? 20% doesn't feel so bad until the bill suddenly triples. That's what made Dallas feel different overall. It wasn't that everything was dirt cheap in the first place, it's that the overall math still worked. You could buy a home, you could pay your taxes, you could handle your monthly expenses, and still feel like you had some breathing room left over. And if you were moving from places like California, New York, Chicago, or Seattle, Dallas almost felt like somebody had handed you the cheat code. Bigger house, bigger yard, more space, more opportunity as well. And in a lot of cases, you were spending less money to get it all. And that's why Dallas really developed that reputation as one of the best value plays in America. The problem is, once enough people discover a good thing, that good thing usually starts to change. And that's exactly what happened next. Oh yeah, and before I forget, if this is your first time to the channel, I'm Mark with the Dallas Relocation Guy, and my team and I, we help people make the move down to Dallas every single day, guys. Look, nobody's out here boots on the ground giving you the insights, the intel, and really making you know which areas are going to fit the best for you and your family, and not just showing you pretty houses online like all the other realtors you see on YouTube. So if you want that lifestyle piece to make sure that you land in the right place before you buy that $500,000 house, feel free to reach out, guys. All of our contact info is down in the description below and pinned to the top of the chat. You see, back then, Dallas's major problem was it was just too good of a deal, and eventually people started figuring it out. You know, for years, Dallas was sitting there like an underrated restaurant with great food, huge portions, and a no-wait line. Locals knew that it was good, and a few people from out of town, they knew it was good as well. But then somebody posted it online, the influencers showed up, and suddenly the line wrapped around the building with people asking if you need a reservation for Tuesday lunch. That's basically what happened to Dallas, guys. In 2020, the DFW Metro had about 7.6 million people. By 2025, it was sitting at around 8.5 million. That means DFW added over 840,000 people in just a 5-year span. And from 2024 to 2025 alone, the Metro added about 123,000 people. That's not normal growth, guys. I'm trying to tell you. And the crazy thing is, the people didn't really just show up randomly, right? They were following the opportunity. Listen, this region has kept adding jobs, expanding industries, and attracting companies that wanted access to a larger workforce, those lower operating costs, and that central geography, right? And just a business environment that made sense for all the growth that they were trying to do. As of May of last year, DFW has added over 50,000 jobs over the previous year, right? Guys, that's thousands of new paychecks entering the market, and those paychecks eventually need somewhere to live. Then if you add the corporate relocation piece, and this is where Dallas really started putting its main character jacket on. We've seen a ton of companies move their headquarters and their major operations into places like Plano, Irving, Carrollton, over in downtown Dallas. We're talking about Lancaster down south. I mean, KFC just announced its U.S. headquarters is moving to Plano, and a bunch of other corporate headquarters are coming to North Texas as well, including companies coming from California, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and a bunch of these other markets as well. So this is not just regular population growth. This was people, jobs, companies, and money all moving in the same direction. And once that started happening, Dallas became part of the national relocation conversation in a much, much bigger way. It was not just locals moving around the Metroplex anymore. It was people looking at North Texas as a serious alternative to the most expensive markets around the country. They wanted more space, right? They wanted more house. They wanted more career opportunities and a lifestyle that still felt possible. But here's where all the bargain starts to break, right? When a city adds people this quickly, when jobs keep expanding, when companies keep relocating, and when national attention keeps building, the demand, it starts kicking the door wide open like it owns the place. And when that kind of demand hits the housing market, prices usually do one thing: they move north. All right, so what happens when you have all that growth, all those jobs, and all those new residents starting to pour into North Texas? The home prices happen, and not the kind where prices slowly creep up over time. We're talking about the kind of appreciation that completely changes what a budget can buy. Look, back in 2010, the median home value, like I said, it was about $130,000. By 2020, it had climbed to $250,000. Today, it's north of $320,000. So in other words, Dallas home values have increased by well over 140% in the last 15 years. Look, that's not appreciation, guys. That's a complete reset of affordability. And the craziest part of it all isn't how much prices went up. It's how much buying power changed. Back in 2010, a $250,000 budget, it gave buyers real options. Today, that same budget is playing a completely different game. You're getting tiny homes, fewer updates, fewer choices, and in some cases, you're shopping in an entirely different area than you would have been 15 years ago. And that's where a lot of people get caught off guard around here. They're not comparing Dallas today to Dallas today. They're comparing Dallas today to the version of Dallas they had stored in their head for the last decade. Now, look, if you bought a home years ago, this probably sounds like a success story, right? Your home, it gained all of the value. Your equity grew enormously. But if you're trying to buy that same home today, you're having a very different conversation. Hell, what felt expensive in 2020 feels affordable today. And here's really the craziest part about all this. The home price wasn't actually the biggest shock. The monthly payment was. Now look, I get it. If you think home prices were the biggest shock to the system, guys, this is where things gets really interesting. Because most people don't buy homes based on the price of the house. They buy homes based on the monthly payment of it. Mortgage rates were hovering about 3% back in the day, let's say 2020 or so. Today, they're roughly double that. So not only did the home prices climb significantly over the last several years, but the cost of borrowing the money climbed right alongside it. The house got more expensive, the money needed to buy the house got more expensive, and the people were hit from both sides. That's why so many people feel like the affordability changed overnight, guys. I've had plenty of conversations with people relocating out here who ask me, Mark, our budget is like $500,000, and I definitely understand that. But that's not really the question anymore, and I tend to ask a better question, right? What monthly payment are we comfortable with paying every month? Because the home price gets all that attention, but the monthly payment is what people actually feel every single month. And believe it or not, even that payment isn't telling the whole story. Because once people start looking seriously at homes in Texas, they discover another expense that can completely change the property map, the property tax. So if the monthly payment wasn't enough, guys, this is usually where people get their second surprise, is when we talk about our property tax. Now, whenever I talk about these Texas property taxes, somebody always says, yeah, but Texas doesn't have a state income tax. Yes, completely true, and it definitely saves you some money. Texas basically looked at the state income tax and said, we'll find another way to do this. And that other way is the property taxes. Now, this is the thing that usually catches a lot of people off guard, and your lenders as well if you're trying to use one outside of the state of Texas. I can't tell you how many times we're using somebody's lender outside of the state of Texas, and they mess the deal all the way up because they're not calculating what the property taxes actually are here in Texas. So again, guys, I'm begging you, when you come and reach out to us, let's have a conversation about using a Texas lender who understands the ramifications of what these mean to your deal. Like I said before, the biggest factor is that those taxes are being applied to a much higher home value than they were 15 years ago. Back when the typical Dallas home was worth around 130 grand, right? Tax bill felt a lot different than it does today when most homes are worth 2, 3, 4 times that amount. And then just when people thought they had it all figured out, right? Texas throws in things like mud taxes and pit taxes. And these are going to be additional taxes that can show up in certain communities, especially these newer developments that everybody loves, and they can absolutely impact your monthly ownership costs. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and act like they're just astronomical, but they are a tip to the developer for putting in all your things like the roads, the infrastructure, your water, just great amenities that you're in love with. That's where all that money goes to. Now, there is a good news to all this as well, and that's going to be your homestead exemption, because that can help lower a portion of your taxable value if your home is your primary residence. But at the end of the day, guys, the biggest takeaway is this. The payment that you see online is rarely the whole story, because once you start adding taxes, the number can change quickly. But if you believe it or not, taxes are still only one piece of this puzzle. And now, this is where the cost of living starts to act like a Marvel villain after the credits have gone, because the house itself is only one part of the story. The cost to actually live in the house has been climbing right alongside it. I want you to think about homeowners insurance as a good example, right? The average homeowners insurance has increased from 10.8% to over 21%. So even before you buy furniture, you hang curtains, or realize the previous owner, they painted every room landlord beige, insurance is already walking in with its hand out. And on another note, your auto insurance has been moving in the same direction. I mean, the average full coverage policy in Texas is rising from about $1,500 in late 2021 to roughly $2,400 by late 2025. That's nearly a 58% increase, guys. And in DFW, where traffic can turn a 20-minute drive into a full character building exercise, that cost matters. Then you're gonna have the HOA fees, especially in the newer communities and the master plan developments. Now, to me, these are not that bad, right? We're talking about $1,200 to $1,500 a year, but it is still a cost that you're going to have to pocket. Those dues often help pay for all the maintenance on the community pools, the trails, the landscaping, and the amenities that people actually enjoy. Like I said, the challenge is that it's another monthly expense added to the pile. And while we're on the subject, utilities haven't really even stayed the same either, right? In Texas, when you're running your AC all summer, guys, that's gonna be about $200, $250, maybe even $300 a month that you have to account for. Even the water bills have increased as cities continue investing in the infrastructure to support all the growth that we're seeing in the population. And then come the lifestyle costs that a lot of people just often forget to budget for, right? Your lawn maintenance, that could be anywhere from $100 to $200 a month, right? And then if you have a pool, you got to add that maintenance in, which could be another $150 to $300 a month. And what's really funny about it all is these are actually the exact features people moved to Texas for to get in the first place. They want the bigger yards, they want the outdoor living spaces, they want the pools that are great, right? But maintaining them is where the invoice shows up and slowly starts to eat away at your pocket. And that's really the point of everything. It's not one expense. It's a stacking effect that you have to pay attention to. Insurance, utilities, HOA fees, maintenance, groceries, household goods, and everything else that comes with the daily life of living in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. So when people say Dallas feels more expensive today, they're not imagining things, guys. The monthly math has definitely changed. But believe it or not, Dallas still has one expense category that catches a lot of newcomers completely off guard. Now, one of the things that surprises a lot of people once they live here, and if you lived here, you already understand it, is that toll roads are a must. Now, I'm not here to hate on the toll roads. I use them all the time because I believe my time is worth more than $5. But the reality is it surprises a lot of newcomers as they move here to the DFW because they don't realize how often they have to use them. They look at the map and they think, oh, that's like 20 minutes away. It's not that bad. But yeah, it's like 20 minutes and $7 as well. And while a single toll charge doesn't seem like a big deal, that's kind of the whole theme of this video. A couple dollars here, a few dollars over there, the daily commute, a trip across town, and those long tolls can add up to hundreds or even thousands of dollars per year depending on how often you use them. Now look, to be fair, you're getting something in return for that, right? Faster commutes, better connectivity, and less time sitting in traffic wondering why you didn't leave 10 minutes early. Look, the point of this isn't that toll roads are some massive financial burden, guys. It's that they're another one of those Dallas expenses people don't fully appreciate until they start living. And when you add tolls to the home prices, to the payment, to the taxes, to the insurance, and everything else that we've talked about today, guys, you start to see that bigger picture. Because the reason some people feel priced out of Dallas today isn't just because of one expense, it's all of them combined. And I think the reason this conversation hits differently depending on who you talk to is because everybody is comparing Dallas to a different version of Dallas. They've watched the region grow. They've watched the Metroplex grow. The companies are moving in and the jobs that's been created and the homes values climbed for them. I mean, from their perspective, Dallas Dallas has been one of the biggest success stories in America. Now, the person moving here today is walking into a completely different chapter, right? They didn't get the Dallas at the 2010 price. They're getting Dallas after years of population growth, the corporate relocations, the infrastructure expansions, and the billions of dollars of investments that are pouring into Texas. They're seeing the restaurants, the entertainment districts, the master plan communities, and the opportunities that put Dallas on the national map. But at the same time, they're also seeing the bill. That's why I've never believed people feel priced out because of one expense, guys. Nobody gets the toll bill and suddenly decides to move, right? Nobody sees a property tax statement and immediately starts packing boxes. What people feel is the accumulation of everything moving higher at the same time. The home costs more, the payment costs more, the insurance costs more, everyday life just costs more. Eventually, it starts feeling like every bill in your mailbox joined the same group chat. And then at the same time, the growth that pushed those costs higher is also reasons a million people keep choosing Dallas. Dallas became more expensive for the same reason your favorite local restaurant suddenly has an hour-long wait. A lot more people decided it was worth showing up for. So when people say they're getting priced out of Dallas, what they're really describing is the gap between the Dallas they remember, the Dallas that they've heard about, and the Dallas that exists today. And that brings us to the one question that really, really matters. All right, so after everything that we've talked about, has Dallas actually become expensive? And the answer depends entirely on what you're comparing it to, right? If you're comparing it to old Dallas, then yeah, it definitely has. That's simply the reality of a region that added millions of people over the last 10 years. But if you're relocating from a higher cost market, you may come to a very different conclusion. Many people still move to Dallas because they see more space, more opportunity, and a strong job market, and a lifestyle that feels attainable compared to where they're coming from. And that's why this conversation is so interesting, right? What really happened is Dallas just grew up. So when people ask if Dallas is expensive, I think the better question is whether Dallas still delivers enough value for what it costs. And for a lot of people, that answer is still yes. And that's why so many people reach out to us guys. They're coming down here for the opportunity, and we're able to get them in that spot that'll give them the best lifestyle for what they're looking for. Which brings us to the final question on the Boss Mode. Is Dallas still worth it for you? So after looking at all of this, guys, I think the biggest mistake that people make is asking whether Dallas is affordable without first asking what they're comparing it to. And then on the flip side, is it going to be the best fit for them and their situation in this current market? And that's something every person has to decide for themselves, guys. So like I said, if you're thinking about making a move down to the Dallas Metroplex and you want to know where you fit in, guys, my team and I, we help people figure this out every single day. We get you dialed in, we get you moved into that new home, and you can buy your next property with ease of mind without worrying about whether you're going to be in the right place. So if you're thinking about making that move, guys, feel free to reach out. All of our contact info is down in the description below and pinned to the top of the chat. And look, I get it. If you're not quite ready to make that decision yet, you're not quite ready to make that leap, you're still in research mode, then we created whole playlists that you can binge watch like Netflix, and you can check those out right there.